Good morning and welcome to you all. Thank you so much for attending today's session. It looks like we have great turnout, which I think is not only related to the importance of the subject matter, but also to the enormity of GP's popularity. You know, at its peak, over 47,000 businesses like yours invested in and depended on Microsoft Dynamics GP to run their business every day. And I think another reason for the turnout relates to some of the lack of clarity on the future of GP. It is our sincere hope that we can help create some clarity, give you some insight in terms of strategic directions that you can go within your business and get the insight you came for. My name is Jory Weissman. I'm a partner here at Citrin Cooperman, but I've spent the last 30 plus years, actually the entirety of my professional career, working to help mid-market businesses like yours implement business management solutions. I've done this across multiple industries and multiple technology platforms. GP certainly spent 20 some odd years working with that application, so it's definitely a favorite of mine, and understand and appreciate how reliable it's been for your business. I think what's really also important, just a little what we'll call a safe harbor statement, is that the information that's contained here in the presentation is based upon our interpretation of the materials we've obtained via published documentation from Microsoft or various other affiliates. It may not be a complete representation of any official position of Microsoft, so therefore we recommend you do some independent research on the subject matter that we're presenting, so you can make the most informed decision. When I think about Microsoft Dynamics GP, and I've been hearing about its death probably for the past 15 plus years, I was reminded of this quote by Mark Twain. And you know, as technologists, we'll certainly have our own conclusions about the viability of GP within your business and within the market. But again, leave it to you to make your own decisions based upon the materials that we're presenting. From an agenda perspective, we certainly want to give you an overview of some of the key announcements that came out of Microsoft recently as it relates to GP. We're going to spend some time talking about the fixed versus modern lifecycle support programs. There are two of them that really at play within this conversation. And then also focusing on the differentials between mainstream support and extended support, certainly from a fixed lifecycle perspective that I suspect a lot of you are running on. Mainstream and extended support each have different characteristics, so we need to be aware of that. And then we'll focus on some key dates associated to end of product support. Also thinking about the short-term and long-term implications. What do these things mean for your business? So throughout the entirety of the conversation, we'll be talking about that and ultimately giving you some options with respect to what's next. And if time permitting, we'll open the floor to some Q&A, but we'll ask that you put that into the chat. And if we do have the time, we'll get to it. If not, we'll certainly follow up with you in the future and make sure that your questions are responded to. So what are some key announcements? The first thing I'd like to talk about is mid last year, Microsoft announced that as of April 1st, 2025, there will be no new perpetual license sales for new customers. I want to allow that to sink in a little bit and really think about what that means, right? If we're saying that there's no new license sales, that means there's no new customers, no new revenue coming into the business. And as we know, lack of revenue means that there's going to be a lack of research and development and a lack of general investment in the product line. It's really more of a hang-on statement than it is really a go-forward statement. And so as you think about needing technology, and especially with the advent of AI and BI and all of the complementary tools that surround a modern ERP system, not having that strategic investment is going to certainly present challenges for you to maintain your technological advantage. Additionally, what it also means is that, like Apple and Android, having a healthy app marketplace and ecosystem of products that surround the ERP is really what gives it its power. Really what made Microsoft Dynamics GP so popular was the large number of third-party independent software vendors that were creating complementary products to build up an ecosystem of great functionality to extend the scope and reach. Now, if you're an ISV, having a vibrant marketplace to sell into, worthy of investment. if you're an ISV in a marketplace that is not selling any new additional licenses to new customers, well, that's kind of a shrinking market. And as organizations like you are considering the next move in the technology, if I'm an ISV, not really thinking about investing into an old technology platform. We'll get into a little bit more of that later, citing some specific examples. So just think about that within the context. And yes, while there are support plans, as you can see, the fixed lifecycle support plan for mainstream support ended 2023 on certain versions. We'll talk about that. And there is an extended support plan available through 2028. And I put a little asterisk there because there can be, certainly subject to change. But this surrounds that fixed lifecycle support plan. So we'll get into some of those details and really hopefully give some meaning to those dates. And then to go forward, right, beyond that fixed life cycle plan, as we know, 2028 is literally around the corner, especially as you're planning for ERP system replacements. The Microsoft will advocate a transition to a modern life cycle support program. So we'll take a look at the prerequisites to make that happen and how well that fits within the GP ecosystem. And then also pointing out that along this whole timeline of this transition, Microsoft has indicated that there will be no fundamental platform changes. Again, baking in things like AI, baking in things like business intelligence is really going to fall behind. While they'll do certain things to keep it sound, they're not going to do anything to give it its forward lean, which we all want to be able to take advantage of in 2024 and beyond. So let's take a look at the fixed versus modern support lifecycle. And within the fixed lifecycle, there's really these two elements I've talked about, mainstream and extended support. So mainstream support is really the first phase of the Microsoft software product lifecycle, and it lasts approximately 5 years for any given release. And during mainstream support, Microsoft provides new releases, updates, service packs and builds, fixes and patches to enhance the product security and reliability, close some vulnerability loopholes, and fix problems. As you move on into extended support, that's the phase that follows mainstream. It's really more of a, hanging on kind of approach, right? So there'll be no new features added to the application. Complementary support is no longer available. There will be some non-security fixes available, but they will be very, very limited. And security fixes will be available just like in mainstream support. So if there are vulnerabilities and you're there on a supported version, up through the 2028 timeline that we talked about a few minutes ago, you will be able to get some security patches there to maintain the relative safety of the application, but nothing beyond that. Let's take a closer look at some of these dates, and I separated this into 3 sections: red, yellow, green. Obviously, red really being in a danger zone. I hope that nobody here today is running on GP 2013 or before. I do know for sure plenty of people are probably running in that yellow band between 2016 R2 and 2015, and I think at this point, Maria is going to put up a little bit of a flash poll. I think it's always interesting to see the mix of people who's on what version, so you get a feel for the market. I think it'll be a great representation of the market in general. And then for those of you who've upgraded to GP 2018 R2, that's what's going to give you that extended support line out into 2028, where anybody in the yellow band only has it through 2026, which is literally right around the corner. So encouraging, obviously, if it's red, let's not waste any time. I think we're on borrowed time. In the yellow band, hopefully we're contemplating moving on, and we could talk about the different strategic directions you could take. And green should also consider, right? It's safe for now, but 2028 is certainly looming with the differentiators that we talked about between mainstream and extended support. Some of you also may have heard about a concept beyond extended support called the Extended Security Update Program. We did a little research into this, and really this is more of something that's geared around platform surety. So SQL Server, Windows operating system platform, where if you're on older versions, you can get extended security updates available to make sure from a foundation or a platform level things are okay. But we see no references of this in any way, shape, or form available to Dynamics GP. There was some reference made to Dynamics AX, which is that Exapta Enterprise solution. But of course, nobody in attendance today is going to be running that. So just wanted to point out this extended security update program is not necessarily something you should be relying on for some surety around your application. And just as we transition the conversation from this fixed life cycle, and you can see that cutoff point here from GP 2018 R2, right, being the last of the release that was on the fixed life cycle program and the first of the releases on the modern life cycle program, GP 2018.3, you can see that roadmap is articulated out through 2018 and beyond. But there are some very important considerations to be thinking about. And again, any updates that they do make available under this program are not going to be, foundational in nature, right? They're not going to be those transformative technologies that we'd be looking for on a go-forward basis to run the business. So let's look at the modern life cycle. Let's look at some of the benefits and the prerequisites that are associated to it. And the number one issue for me is that eligibility in the modern life cycle program, in other words, your ability to continue to take updates and patches to tax tables or whatever other surety elements are going to be made available to you, you have to take at least one of the 3 annual upgrades that Microsoft is going to make available in terms of GP annual updates. So that means every year you're going to need to upgrade your Dynamics GP to be in that safe zone where that line was articulated through 2028 and beyond. So the policy will offer support services, including bug fixes and the latest tax table updates, right? The latest version, 18.6 and beyond, is governed by this modern lifecycle program. Updates can include some minor usability changes to address top customer issues in other critical areas. And the updates will more typically consist of hot fixes and any relevant regulatory updates. Again, this is more of a stay status quo, but the requirement there is this piece here in the middle is getting yourself upgraded each and every year. So really, what are some of the barriers when you think about doing these upgrades? And an interesting secondary poll question we had is how frequently do people update and upgrade their systems? So I think Maria is going to flash a second poll, giving us some sense of your frequency of updates, because I know personally in the GP community, it was not something people looked forward to doing. It certainly wasn't a passive upgrade like it is today on some of the modern cloud applications. And so I have my own guesses, but I'm curious to see what your responses are. So if you're kind enough to respond, we'll get a look into what's really happening out there in the market. But when you have to do this transition, frequent database updates, what does that mean to you? Well, it means more planning, more downtime, certainly more risk and much higher expenses than a more modern ERP solution, right? And we have to do frequent retrofitting. We know that the upgrade process, if any of you have lived through this as we have, you go through that upgrade process, something always breaks, right? Something always has to be retrofitted, whether it's an integration from a line of business application where GP was real popular, right? As a GL and AP, AR engine, potentially these point solutions are moving data in and out of GP. Well, those integrations may have to be touched. Certainly at a minimum tested, right? Your reporting, whether you're using Management Reporter or SSRS reports, even some of the smart searches that you did on GP, a lot of those would have to be tweaked and updated. And of course, the dreaded customizations. If you went through the process of building out customizations within the core of GP, every time you do an upgrade, at minimum, you're going through a very rigorous testing cycle. At worst, you're retrofitting and patching in some of that code. The other point is about those ISV solutions, right? So we think about that healthy ecosystem that was very, very helpful. Well, they've got to be upgraded as well. And there's really 2 factors to consider, right? Remembering back to that April 1st, 2025 note where they're not selling any new applications. Well, in that case, how stringent is that ISV partner going to be, and how much attention are they going to pay to that ecosystem? And how much effort are they going to want to put into upgrading their applications and going through the testing and certification every year in a shrinking market? We look no further than the popular Bill.com we just read online as recently as within the last few weeks that they've announced they were going to be shutting down their ISV program within the GP community, or at least on a go-forward basis. So I think that's just portends what the future can potentially hold as it relates to these ISV solutions. So A, it's an issue to upgrade them, and B, will they be there to upgrade it in the future? And then, of course, you need the infrastructure, right? A dedicated environment to execute these upgrades, right? If you're moving up to a new version of SQL Server, which often happens, or a new version of OS, you're going to have to carve that out within your infrastructure, either as a VM or a secondary server, and go through the process of upgrading in a test environment, and then reprocessing that in a live environment. So there are significant infrastructure costs, and I'm not here today to talk about the wisdom of cloud computing and the cost efficiency of cloud computing, but that's certainly something to consider. But overall, we would suggest that there's just a substantially increased total cost of ownership when you think about those annual upgrades versus the periodic upgrades. Beyond that is what I call the force multipliers. And so doing an upgrade can be challenging in and of itself. And we really have to think also about the scope of your GP deployment, right? What is the quantity and the type of those customizations, right? Each one of those is going to be a cost multiplier when it comes to doing your upgrade. How many ISV solutions? Not uncommon, not to just one, but many people have 2, 3, some even 4 different ISV solutions. And then we think about whether you're doing financials only, relatively easy upgrade, but what are the number of companies that you're running within that financials only environment? Because each one of those has to be vetted and tested. Or are we doing the full scope of ERP? Are we doing supply chain? Are we doing inventory management, or some of those other things that can really drive the cost up when you talk about doing these upgrades? And also, not to be left unsaid, the scarcity of resources. With its age, there is an aging services community, an aging and retiring pool of service providers. We know these challenges, certainly, right? Maintaining quality on staff or external resources, maintaining those relationships with people who have been doing it for an extended period of time. No one's really going into the market today saying, hey, let me learn dexterity and let me learn Dynamics GP, and working within that environment. They're going to more modern technologies. So it's going to be something where it's going to be increasingly more challenging to get the help that you need. And of course, then increased support costs, right? And that really decreases the overall reliability of the solution. I think the number one reason that motivates people to change ERP, because nobody wakes up in the morning and just says, let me go out and buy new ERP, right? Everybody really does this. Some do it excitedly, but everybody does it with a degree of trepidation. So we want to make sure that you have that technical expertise to help bring that business forward. We know you take it seriously. It's not a light decision, but a motivator to move is the fact that I feel risk within my business. And that's really the call to action, is to really reduce the risk and uncertainty around this platform today. So there is a modern life cycle, but they've taken a modern life cycle and they've applied it to a legacy application. And in my opinion, that's like trying to force a square peg into a round hole. A modern life cycle with annual or 3 times a year upgrades, or most of the cloud providers doing twice a year upgrades that are seamless and easy, well, that's easy. Having to do this on a legacy application makes it very, very challenging. So what are your options? Where do we go from here? So the first of the options is you can migrate to Dynamics Business Central. Certainly that is a valid offering in the marketplace. We here at Citrin Cooperman support that and can help you roadmap a transition into a solution like that. Alternatively, there's a solution called Finance and Operations. It's gone through several name changes of late, but there are really 2 lines of business. Business Central, really a direct replacement for GP, and Finance and Operations, more of an upmarket solution. That is an option. A secondary option is going to a pure or native cloud ERP solution, like a NetSuite or others that were born in the cloud. See, unlike the Business Central journey, which started from the vision, effectively a legacy application that was rebranded and ported up, solutions like Microsoft, born in the cloud, have certain attributes that we believe are very, very compelling. And the third thing is potentially web enabling your GP data, dipping your toe in the water, if you will, right? Dipping your toe in the cloud waters to say, how do I start to experience cloud technology within my business without making that giant leap forward? And we have some interesting technologies with Dynamics GP connected tools such as Power BI or Power Apps, what we call modern workforce tools that you can extend and web enable your GP data in some very interesting ways. We'll look at that in a minute. And of course, there is the old do nothing, right? We can continue to kick the can down the road. Not a great solution in terms of thinking forward about your business, but many people do kind of just defer and defer. But in this instance, if you do that, I would highly encourage to seriously think about getting yourself onto that modern life cycle, getting into that mode of those annual updates and upgrades. We can certainly assist there if that becomes your decision. As we think about the move to Business Central or Finance and Operations is the key lead, right? It is, as I mentioned, Legacy Navision and Legacy AX, rebranded and ported up. Important to note, there is no magic migration from GP to Business Central. A lot of people perceive that is the case and wanted to create clarity around that. It is moving from one ERP to another. The fact that they're both branded within the Microsoft family is really irrelevant. You have to go through the same cautionary processes of migrating your data, planning, and strategy as you would with any ERP. So if that's the perception, definitely rethink that, and that may certainly impact your decision. And while BC is an extremely low-cost solution, we know that that is really not the most important consideration when thinking about the health and future state of your business. But BC, to its credit, is a very low-cost option. Many smaller businesses don't have a lot of connections, don't have a very forward lean relative to the technology, may find this an enjoyable option. There is a little bit less in terms of pre-configured content when compared to something like a NetSuite that has these different iterations or industry-specific verticals that come pre-built with a lot of KPIs and reporting out of the box. More configuration work need be done within the interface of Business Central to get it looking and functioning the way you want, but it is low cost. And then the thing to also note that while Microsoft Dynamics has this whole mosaic of product, there are separate databases between CRM, ERP, and e-commerce. Very well integrated. Microsoft did a great job, obviously, of connecting these applications, but they are connected. So they are separate licenses. So if you want to experience customer portals, you want to experience e-commerce, or you want to experience CRM, separate licensing that drives up that cost a little bit. It also recognized that those connections are only as good as what has been built, whereas when you have a unified application that is ubiquitous, right? It's throughout the entirety of the application where it touches CRM in every place imaginable. And the other thing I would also caution is just check reporting capabilities and drill down. Financial reporting, built-in, native, nice reporting capabilities, but just look into it, make sure it fits your needs relative to pre-built slicers and some of the options. How flexible is it for you as a user to be able to navigate with that? Very often we're tasked with comparing the two applications. Happy to do that as part of the services that we provide, but definitely look into that before you make that decision. Alternatively, an option, migrate to a native cloud application. None more popular today than Oracle's NetSuite for both small, mid-sized, large-scale, and high-end enterprise organizations. Right? That does bring with it a unified database of embedded CRM and e-commerce. Great at multi-entity management, right? Seamless intercompany transaction processing. A lot of you running on GP in a multi-company environment are used to logging in and out of each one of those individual companies, or you used a third-party multi-entity management MEM solution to kind of navigate that a little bit better. This is certainly more native, and with a subsidiary navigator, seamlessly recasting your dashboards around each of the subsidiaries and consolidating those subsidiaries really at the click of a mouse. Passive upgrades, right? Always current, twice a year, right? That whole thing we spoke about relative to GP and a modern life cycle. Well, this truly is the modern life cycle. Always current, really passive. Yes, some testing. You want to be responsible to understand the new features and what that's going to bring to the table. But that's always going to bring the latest and greatest technologies, baking in things like AI and business intelligence right into the core of the platform. Pretty impressive stuff. And of course, low code, no code. Right? We love GP, but we know it was rigid, right? A batch-based system, stuck batches, all of that nonsense, but also very different, very difficult to change the user experience, right? Couldn't do that with the click of a mouse, couldn't do it with a consultant, kind of went behind the curtains there and had a developer writing code. But today's more modern cloud-based technologies are allowing a low-code, no-code, user-driven customization experience. And of course, bringing with it superior API connectivity. In the world of Dynamics, you use the tool called eConnect to integrate data in and out, right? A separate application. Here, every endpoint can be addressed. They're using the latest and greatest technologies that modern developers are going to be, very comfortable working with. And seamless scalability and elasticity, not just at the application level, but at the platform level. So this can really help to optimize your operations, as well as creating surety around cybersecurity. So plenty of reasons to think about cloud. Again, BC is cloud-based application. NetSuite is cloud-based application. Those really both fit well within a modern lifecycle. GP, just not so much, unfortunately. The third option we spoke about was web enabling your GP data, and doing that with a tool such as Microsoft Power BI. We're finding tremendous success in giving organizations who've had their data locked in the GP or the confines of GP. They've enjoyed tremendous success having us implement a solution like Microsoft Power BI. It is a very low cost, relatively easy to implement solution. We also have some of these power packs that are available that you can bring pre-built analytic content right out of the box, so you don't have to wonder, what is my BI strategy? We can give you some great jumping off points to take that GP data, unleash it, and then put it into a format where you can slice and dice in real time right on the screen, right? Don't need developers, we don't need output, or don't need reports. And it fosters collaboration. You can see this depicted on a mobile platform. You can do this on desktop, tablet. You can share, create PowerPoint presentations out of this, really get the entire team working together on your GP data and unifying that. And that becomes an easy first step to get your first taste of the cloud, recognizing it's safe, secure, reliable, and then perhaps think about that as a pull through on some of the ERP options that are available to you. And there is, of course, option number 4, and there's a cost of option number 4. And number 1, certainly falling behind that of your competitors. There are 2 types of organizations: those that see IT and technology as kind of background noise and non-essential to the functioning of the business, and those who see it really more of an asset to the business, asset to the performance of the business, asset to the way the people that work, even with basic things like GL and AP and AR, introducing concepts easily like workflow and audit controls, and having other things that are in place that a modern solution will bring to the table. Right? We don't want to fall behind our competitors with that level of efficiency. You expand beyond GL and AP into billing and accounting and supply chain, boy, don't want to miss that boat in terms of your ability to do all of that stuff internal to your ERP instead of external on spreadsheets that are surrounding the periphery, right? You have, of course, limited scalability and the increased headcount of supporting it. And stagnant productivity. You often can have system downtime through those upgrade cycles, or just in general, right? When you have hardware issues, as we've all encountered from time to time. And one of the more significant things is no access to new business automation, whether it's ISV solutions or how healthy is the developer really pumping R&D dollars back into that solution. Key things. And we talked about separate databases, siloed systems, and data and processing gaps. And then, of course, the overall increased hardware that just doesn't go away. So, sitting with this in a more of a stagnant way, while yes, it will survive through a process, but at what cost to your pocketbook and at what cost to the future growth and scale of the organization. So just some key takeaways, because I do want to stay on time, and I know I'm running just a few minutes beyond what we thought. right? Modern support lifecycles requires annual GP upgrades. That's the way to get your surety. Without that, you're definitely putting your business at risk. Shrinking pool of GP resources, that's an absolute fact. And then do we migrate NetSuite or other cloud solutions like Business Central, et cetera? Absolutely, should be on the roadmap and on the radar. And Business Central may in fact fit your needs after some careful evaluation. And then we also have the option of leveraging modern cloud-based tools like Power BI and so on and so forth. Maria, I don't know if you have a quick minute, if we have any poll results, just be curious for everybody to hear about that.
Yes, absolutely. So on the question regarding what version of GP are you running?
Right.
So it looks like 44% of respondents noted that they are running 18.2, meaning GP 2019 or older. So that's
Wow.
44%. That's a pretty big number. And on the question regarding how often do you typically upgrade GP, it looks like 66% of respondents said between 2 to 3 years and some annually, but
Wow.
mostly between 2 to 3 years. So not many people are upgrading annually.
Yeah. That's actually, it's a higher percentage, 2 to 3 years. I would have suspected more to be in 3 to 5 range. And, years kind of go fast and it's painful. It's kind of like childbirth. You don't really want to remember all of the details. And yeah, they were born some time ago, but certainly, I guess not too far out of what I would have expected. Certainly the 44% of you that are in 18.2, definitely let's think about taking some action. We want to be here to help. I'm going to leave this up on the screen, which is a QR code. You can click on that with your camera. It'll take you down to a link to submit an inquiry. We have a team of account executives here at Citrin Cooperman who can work with you to help plot your strategy, right? If you want to stand pat, you can do that. If you need our help there, great. If not, I'm glad we, had a few minutes to share some insight with you today. If you're thinking about one of the more modern workforce solutions, just to dip your toe in that water, we can certainly help there. That is very, very exciting, and as we said, a low barrier to entry. Or if you are considering a transformation to a new cloud-based ERP and want to think holistically about a strategy, our team here at Citrin has the capability to be able to support that, along with advanced financial management and corporate performance management. Lots of tools at our disposal to be able to assist you. We have a very deep, experienced team here, and be pleased to serve. So thank you all again so much for taking the time with us today. Reach out to us with any questions, and hopefully we'll see you again real soon. Thank you all.